This is a plant that has two interesting common names. One of them is the opium poppy, because this is indeed the plant from which opiate drugs are derived. That's not the reason I'm growing it, though. Another common name for this is the breadseed poppy, because it's also the exact same plant that gives us the edible seeds that are commonly used in baking. Today I'm going to harvest some of the seeds and cook with them. So the breadseed poppy heads have ripened now, and you can see they've opened up. Those little holes there. This one hasn't quite opened up. So I'm going to get a container and shake these out and collect the seeds. I have a feeling it's about to rain, so I'm just going to do this quickly. So there we go. So we get quite a lot of seeds come out of there. That's just from 4 poppy heads. So pretty good. Now it's possible that there might be some small guests in there, some little insects of some sort, so I'll probably just leave that open so they can escape. So I'm going to collect up the rest before it rains, and then I think we'll try making some bread with poppy seeds, or maybe some poppy seed muffins. So if this is the plant that opium comes from, you might be thinking that it would be illegal to cultivate it, but it's not, and indeed it's a relatively common garden plant, grown for its large and showy and colourful blooms, and I suppose maybe for its foliage too, which is quite a distinctive greyish blue-green colour. It's not illegal to grow these plants where I live. It would be illegal to extract opium from them though, at least without a proper licence, but I'm not interested in doing that. I just want them for their flowers in the garden and for their seeds. Poppy seeds are generally quite durable and can remain dormant but viable in the soil for decades. I didn't deliberately sow any of these poppies in the garden, but presumably someone once did plant them here though, and although this plant is a true annual, each plant may produce thousands of seeds. So these are now an established plant in this garden. If I didn't want them here, I suppose we'd call it a weed. Despite the seeds being generally edible, they do contain small traces of opiates. Not enough to have any noticeable effect from eating them under normal circumstances, but certainly enough that they could interfere with a drug test. So if I was considering making an application to compete in the Olympics, I might need to reconsider whether to cook with these and eat them. But the next Olympics is a way off, and I still haven't heard back from the IOC on whether they're going to accept competitive talking as a featured sport. So for now I think we'll just get on and give these a try. Let's go over to Kitchen Shrimp. I'm going to make a lemon and poppy seed drizzle cake, so it's going to be a sponge cake, poppy seeds in it, lemon flavoured. I'm going to use something called the weigh the same method here, which is a really easy way to make cakes. So what we do, I've got 3 eggs, and I weigh the eggs in their shells, 179 grams, 180 grams, and then I will use the same amount of sugar, butter or fat, and flour. So we'll have 180 grams of self-raising flour, and that's going to go straight into my mixing bowl. We're going to have 180 grams of caster sugar. This is just white sugar. Caster sugar is slightly finer than granulated sugar. If you can't get caster sugar, granulated sugar will do. Sometimes I think outside of the UK you might find this as baking sugar. So 180 grams of sugar into the bowl, and then 180 grams of butter or fat. This cake will be eaten by someone who can't consume dairy, so I'm going to use stork. Just put a bit of flour back in that bottom of the scales and zero it, and that way the fat won't stick to them. So we're going to go for 180 grams of fat. Good enough. 179 grams of baking fat, or as I say, butter if you prefer and if your guests can tolerate it. That all goes into there. There is no sort of creaming together of sugar and eggs and so on. This is an all-in-one mix, for which we do need a cake mixer. I've got an unwaxed lemon, and I'm going to take off the zest of the lemon, which is just the yellow outer rind. So if you don't have a zester, you can use the fine side of a box grater to remove the zest from the lemon. And I'm just going to chop this up a little bit smaller, just so it can be evenly distributed through the cake. That goes into the mixing bowl with everything else. Now before we put the eggs in there, I'm just going to put the oven on to preheat, so 180 degrees Celsius fan oven, which is these numbers. And I'm also going to line my baking tin. So this is a non-stick tin, but I'm going to line it with some baking parchment. I put a little bit of oil in there, and I'm only going to line the bottom and the 2 long sides. So I have a piece of baking parchment that is about the right size for that. And we'll just push that into place like so, getting it right into the corners and flat on the bottom. It's really mainly the bottom that needs lining because you can't get a knife down there to release it if it sticks. I'll just crack the eggs into a separate bowl just so I can deal with any bits of shell rather than going straight into the dry mix. Okay, so my eggs now will just go into the mix with everything else. And of course the poppy seeds. Now, recipes generally say 2 tablespoons of poppy seeds, and I got about 2 tablespoons full here, so that's all going to go in there. So now, so there we go. Just mix until you have a uniform batter. And yeah, using a mixer like this does make it a lot easier to make cakes. You can just use this all-in-one method. There's no sequence of adding ingredients, no stages. You dump everything in a bowl, mix it together until it's uniform. And then that goes into the tin. So that's now going to go in the oven for probably 25 to 30 minutes. We'll know it's done because it will be risen, it will probably split along the top, and it will, when we stick a wooden stick into it, it will come out clean with no wet batter on it. The cake's just finishing baking in the oven, so while that's happening, I'm going to prepare the lemon drizzle topping. So this is the same lemon that I scraped the zest from. Just have the juice of that lemon. Sometimes, and as here, zesting the lemon does make the rind a bit feeble and it splits like that, but we got most of it. But you can't zest it once you've peeled it. Well, it's very difficult to do that. Anyway, so the juice of 1 lemon, and then icing sugar, which you might know as powdered sugar or confectioner's sugar. And I'm going to put enough of this in here. I'm just going to kind of dissolve that in. So that's at the moment about 1.5 tablespoons of sugar in there, and that's still not quite enough. So maybe about another 1/2 tablespoonful, a little bit more. We're aiming for a kind of slightly syrupy consistency. We don't want this to just soak directly into the cake. We also don't want it to just run off. It needs to be a little bit gloopy. And don't worry about these lumps. These are clumps of sugar. Don't worry about that. They'll be fine. They'll actually settle out on top of the cake, and a lemon drizzle cake often has these little clumps or crystals of sugar on it. It's fine. So that's had about 30 minutes, and it's risen well, but I'm not entirely certain it's cooked in the middle. So I did say a wooden skewer earlier, but this is a metal one. I haven't got a wooden skewer that's long enough to go into the middle. So, yeah, actually, look. So when we put that in there, that's coming out without sticky batter on it. So I would say that is cooked. I'm just going to let that cool for about 5 minutes before I put the drizzle on it. Right, 5 of your primitive earth minutes have elapsed. Now I'm going to pierce this cake across the top. The notion here is this will allow the lemon drizzle to penetrate a little bit. And then, I don't want it to just all soak in one place, and I don't want it to all run to the sides, so I'm going to put it on a little spoonful at a time, just like this. You can see that that lemon drizzle is soaking down into the cake, which is going to infuse it with more lemon flavour, especially the acidity, the acidic lemon flavour, but also it's going to make it super moist. Okay, and now I'm going to leave that for probably about ½ an hour for that to cool enough that the drizzle will soak in and set, and then we can take it out of the tin. Right, time has passed. Let's get this out of the tin. I've just run a knife down those ends in case it's stuck on there, obviously because there was no parchment down the end. You could line it with parchment, it's just not worth it, I don't think. There we go. And that's the cake. And I should find, I'll just peel off there. But that has turned out rather well, I think. Right, and I think to properly appreciate what that looks like, we need to go out into the daylight. So a cup of tea, I think, and we'll go and cut that out in the garden. Okay, let's cut a slice of this cake and see what we got. Well, it's very tender and crumbly. We can see all of the tiny poppy seeds in there. It looks like maybe they did sink a tiny bit. Just going to get the thumbnail image. Okay. Homemade lemon drizzle poppy seed cake with homegrown poppy seeds. Very delicate cake, beautifully moist and crumbly. I think I could stand to have a bit more lemon in there. But with the lemon at that level, you can taste the poppy seeds. They're ever so slightly nutty and tiny little crunchy pop sensations as you bite. Wait a minute. So as you eat these seeds, they pop. Is that why poppies are called poppies? No, I mean, it's not. Or is it? It's not. Or is it? Anyway, I'm thoroughly happy with that cake. Actually, I've made these all-in-one sponge cakes before, and I seldom get a result as delicate as this. That's turned out really well. I'm completely happy. And it's just nice to be able to have a taste of something else from the garden. It's a bit of an unusual crop. So I hope that's been interesting. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.